Shalom, shalom, and welcome to the White Rose Family Channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah. I have a message that I think is important, very important. I think all the messages are very important, but this is something that might surprise you. If you are one who seeks to do the will of the Almighty Father, and especially during such times as these, you may want to listen to these, especially if you're planning on moving and leaving the U.S. prematurely or for the wrong reasons. This message might just be for you. It's to you who are believers also of a final exodus and may have questions. So in this message, the Next Tower of Babel, I want to attach the words Mystery Babylon Emerging. Mystery Babylon Emerging. You see, my brothers and sisters, many people believe the United States is Babylon. It's Mystery Babylon. I believe all too often, my brothers and sisters, our pride or our limited focus on the world abroad have led many people to believe, since America is the most powerful or one of the most powerful military mights, it fits the description of Mystery Babylon. I will present a different case. I will present to you that I believe the next Tower of Babel is emerging, and the next Tower of Babel represents Mystery Babylon. Come with me, my brothers and sisters. Let me present what could be a why. In other words, why this message is important. And before I explain to why this message is so important, I want you to know there are a lot of individuals who tell you leave Mystery Babylon, saying the United States is Mystery Babylon, and they want you to go anywhere but the United States. And some will promote very strongly the continent, countries in Africa. Just say, just get out of Babylon, get out of the U.S. and go to a country on the continent. But I want you to understand, my brothers and sisters, the scriptures speak of Egypt, or some translation will say Mitzrayim, which stands for a land of bondage. Bondage, my brothers and sisters. And for whatever reason, if you search the scriptures, you'll see that the Almighty Creator Yahuah was very adamant about Yashar'al going into a land of bondage. For the sake of time, I'm going to ask your patience because this may be a long message. For the sake of time, I just presented an address, Genesis 26:2 and Jeremiah 44th chapter. I want you to read those and you will discover where Yahuah was telling his servants, stay out of Egypt. Don't go into Egypt. Don't go into a land of bondage. And for whatever reasons, he ordered Yashar'al to stay away from the land of bondage. Also, I want you to take a look at Matthew chapter 3, verse 6. It says, for I am Yahuah and shall not change, and you, O sons of Yaakov, shall not come to an end. My brothers and sisters, just think about that. Yahuah doesn't change, and he says, stay out of Mitzrayim. I will present the case, I believe, that the next Tower of Babel is everywhere in the world except the land that has been given to Yashar'al, known as the Promised Land. Let's get started. Or let's dive into this message a little more. The case regarding Mystery Babylon, the new Tower of Babel. It may not be what you think. Come with a prayerful mind and see what I have to say, my brothers and sisters. Let me present these words first. Again, Malachi 3:6, where it says, "For I am Yahuah and shall not change, and you, O sons of Yaakov, shall not come to an end." Keep that in mind, my brothers and sisters. For there are many who are leaving the United States and saying they're leaving Babylon and just going to almost any country on the continent of Africa. This would be a sad mistake. Some have utilized their resources and left the U.S. and got to areas where they regret. Some have died in their regret and pain. Do not be one of those running out of the U.S. saying, "I'm leaving Babylon," but only to be in another country that's controlled by the new mystery Babylon. James 1:16 and 17 also emphasizes that Yahuah does not change. It says, "Do not go astray, my beloved brother. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change nor shadow of turning." Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters. I want to also present to you Ecclesiastes 1, verses 8 and 9. I'm reading from the East Sword Scripture Version. Ecclesiastes 1, 8 and 9 say, "All matters are wearisome. No one is able to speak of it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. What has been is what shall be, and what has been done is what shall be done. And there is no new matter under the sun." You will find that I have chosen to say the next Tower of Babel opposed to the new Tower of Babel. It goes on to say in Ecclesiastes 1:10 and 11, "Is there a matter of which is said, 'See, this is new'? It was here already, long ago. There is no remembrance of former ones, nor is there any remembrance of those that are to come, but those who come later on." Let us review this first, my brothers and sisters. Many of us know about the story of Yashar'al coming out of Egypt or Mitzrayim among the children of Yahuah. It is the belief, that we will witness a second Exodus, of which many of us believe and call the final Exodus. So just as there will be a second Exodus, a final Exodus, I will submit to you that I believe that there is another Tower of Babel that is gradually emerging. I am compelled to believe this second Exodus, also known as the final Exodus, will come to be before the physical return of Yahusha Mashiach. If you are one who believes such, it may not be too hard to believe another Tower of Babel is in the process. Just as we will witness another Exodus, I submit to you we will witness another Tower of Babel. I believe the new Tower of Babel, which should state the next Tower of Babel, is emerging. And I said earlier in the title, I didn't say new, and here I have new. That's a mistake. The next Tower of Babel. Let us examine the first story of what is commonly known as the Tower of Babel. Come, let us thoroughly identify what occurred during the time of the first Tower of Babel. Come with me to Genesis 11th chapter, my brothers and sisters. 11th chapter of Genesis. We'll start with the first verse. Read on to the third verse and further. It says, "And all the earth had one language and one speech. And it came to be as they set out from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said to each other, 'Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly.' And they did, and they had bricks for stone, and they had asphalt for mortar. This was during a time when they had one language, one speech. And it goes on to say, they said, come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower whose top is in the heavens, and make the name for ourselves, lest we be scattered over all the face of the earth. Then Yahuah came down to see the city and the tower which the sons of men had built. It goes on to say, and Yahuah said, look, they are one people. They all have one language, and this is what they began to do. And now they are not going to be withheld from doing whatever they plan to do. Come, let us go there and confuse their language so that they do not understand one another's speech. Stay with me, Yashar'al. He goes on to say, and Yahuah scattered them from there over the face of all the earth, and they left off building the city. That is why its name was called Babel, because there Yahuah confused the language of all the earth, and from there Yahuah scattered them over the face of the earth. Why? Man was trying to make a name for themselves. And you know, somewhere along the line, someone wanted to be the head honcho over the world, wanted to be the crown of the sky opposed to heaven. If we prayerfully examine this story, men were not satisfied with their current conditions. They were one people with one language. They took for granted what the Almighty Yahuah had established for them. Let me also read to you, my brothers and sisters, the importance of Deuteronomy 28, 58, and 59. You see, we will read after the Tower of Babel. Years later, we read, or should I say, some of us study, at a time when we see what caused Yashar'al to be scattered. Deuteronomy 28, 58, and 59 say, if you do not guard to do all the words of this Torah that are written in the book, to fear this esteem and also name Yahuah, your Elohim, Almighty One, then Yahuah shall bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary plagues, great and lasting plagues, and grievous lasting sickness. Now let me ask you, Yashar'al, do you think these things will cause Yashar'al to be scattered, running from sickness, running to and fro, looking for cures? He goes on saying, he shall bring back on you all the diseases of Mitzrayim, of which you were afraid, and they shall cling to. Also, every sickness and every plague which is not written in the book of this Torah, Yahuah does bring upon you until you are destroyed. And you shall be left with few men, although you had become as numerous as the stars of heavens, because you did not obey the voice of Yahuah, your Almighty One. It continues, 63rd verse. And it shall be that as Yahuah rejoice over you to do you good and increase you, so Yahuah does rejoice over you to destroy you and lay you waste. And you shall be plucked from the land which you go to possess. And Yahuah shall scatter you among all people from one end of the earth to the other. And there you shall serve other mighty ones, which neither you nor your father have known, wood and stone. Verse 65. And among those nations you are to find no rest, nor have resting places for the sole of your foot. But there Yahuah shall give you a trembling heart and failing eyes, and sorrow of being, and your life shall be hanging in suspense before you, and you shall fear night and day, and not be certain of your life. Jump too quick, my brothers and sisters. I'll start here. If we prayerfully examine this story, men were not satisfied with their current conditions, my brothers and sisters. They were one people with one language. They took for granted what the Almighty Yahuah had established for them. Deuteronomy 28, 58 and 59. If you do not guard to do all the words of the Torah that are written in this book, to fear the esteemed and awesome name Yahuah. I read that, but I want to read it again. Then Yahuah shall bring upon you and your descendants. The 28th chapter of Deuteronomy, my brothers and sisters, I'm going to go ahead because I know I read that and I'm going to press on. We will discover, my brothers and sisters, this is the chapter which describe and help us discover who we are. It describes curses that have not been proven to be on any man other than those who are of Yashar'al. 28 verse 60 and 62 said, and he shall bring back on you all the diseases of Mizraim. I think I read this too. So I'm going to press forward, my brothers and sisters. Forgive me. You can pause it and read that over again, but it's something that I did read. And I read this too, where he will scatter you among all people. Does that seem like something similar to the Tower of Babel? Out of rebellion comes being scattered. Verse 65 and 66 says, and among those nations you are to find no rest, no resting place for the sole of your feet. I read this as well. And you, a trembling heart, failing eyes, and sorrow of being. My brother, my sister, and your life shall be hanging in suspense before you, and you shall fear night and day and not be certain of your life. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. I know I'm stumbling on that, but it's important to bring to attention how the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy speaks of being scattered. Just as the Tower of Babel, they were scattered. Stay with me. I'm going to connect it to present day. In the morning you say, oh, that were evening. In the evening you say, oh, that were morning. Because of the fear in your heart with which you fear, and because of the sight which your eyes see. And Yahuah shall bring you back to Mizraim in ships, by way of which I said to you, you are never to see it again. And there you shall be sold to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one to buy. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, to you, my brother and sister, rebellion led to a massive scattering with the Tower of Babel and during the time in the 28th chapter of Deuteronomy. Rebellion was always due to ignoring the instructions from the Almighty Father Yahuah. As end times ramp up, it's going to bring a sense of urgency. We're going to need to seek to identify what is expected of us and move in that vein. We must begin to recognize the dangers of greed, rebellion, and add to that pride. Let's be mindful of the dangers and such. Take a look at Proverbs 16:18. Come with me there. It reads as such, before destruction comes pride, and before a fall, a haughty spirit. Did the first Tower of Babel fall? Did Yashar'al fall when Deuteronomy 28 came to be? Were they prideful? Were they rebellious? Were they greedy? Consider these words, my brother, my sister, my family. Isaiah 30, chapter 30, verse 1 and 2 reads, woe to the stubborn children, declares Yahuah, to make counsel, but not from me, to devise plans, but not of my spirit, in order to add sin to sin, who are setting out to go down to Mizraim, and have not asked my mouth to be strengthened in the strength of Pharaoh, and to seek refuge in the shadow of Mizraim. My brothers and sisters, all too often we have allowed our own cognitive, mental faculties, sometimes greed and rebellion, to lead us to do things that we should not, to cause us to be scattered, led astray. It goes on, Isaiah 30, verse 3 says, and the strength of Pharaoh shall become your shame, and the refuge in the shadow of Mizraim, your confusion. Remember when I presented Genesis 26 and Jeremiah 44th chapter, we see that our Yahuah emphasized, do not go down to Mizraim. Take a look at Jeremiah 51, 6 and 7, my brothers and sisters. Many people use this verse and use it as an excuse and say, United States is Mystery Babylon. United States is Babylon. Consider these words. Flee from the midst of Babel and let each one save his life. Do not be cut off in her crookedness, for this is the time of vengeance of Yahuah, the recompense. He is repaying her. Babel was a golden cup in the hand of Yahuah, making drunk all the earth. The nations drank her wine. This is why the nations went mad. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, if you look around the world today, wickedness is everywhere. The strength of wickedness is everywhere. The influence of wickedness far passes the border of just the United States. But because we look at the United States as being a powerful influencer, pushing democracy in its own way, we fail to realize the dynamics and processes that are going on around the world. Thus, we have become blind and have yielded to a belief that I believe is untrue. Consider Ezekiel 12:13. It says, and I shall spread my net over him, and he shall be caught in my snare, and I shall bring him to Babel, the land of Kasdim. But he shall not see it, and yet die there. My brothers and sisters, sure, there's literal Babylon. That's the area literally as Babel. But Babel represented bondage, wickedness. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, there's global wickedness and evil. And we will see, I will continue to present why I think it's everywhere but the promised land that represents Mystery Babylon. He goes on to say in Ezekiel 12:14 and 15, I shall scatter to the every wind all who are around him to help him in all his bands, and I shall draw out the sword after them. And they shall know that I am Yahuah when I scattered them among the nations, and I shall disperse them throughout the lands. There are multiple examples where the Almighty Father Yahuah scattered his children because of their rebellion and wickedness. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, a great scattering will come again. Ezekiel 12:16 say, but I shall let a few of their men escape from the sword, from scarcity of food, from pestilence, so that they recount all the abominations among the nations, wherever they go, and they shall know that I am Yahuah. We will see, my brothers and sisters, when it comes to the final Exodus, the promised land, this is where the Almighty Father has set aside for us. Come take a look at these words as well. Matthew 24:24 reads, for false messiahs and false prophets shall arise. They shall show great signs and wonders as to lead astray, if possible, the chosen ones. So it says, if possible. People who are telling you again that the United States is Mystery Babylon, just go anywhere, are leading some people to other parts of the world that presents bondage. Do you know that there's slavery still going on in different parts of the world? You see, bondage is more widespread than we realize, my brothers and sisters. Babylon, Mystery Babylon, is all over the world. Stay with me. Come with me to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. For it is written, let no one deceive you in any way, because the falling away is to come first, and the man of lawlessness is to reveal the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called Almighty One, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as the Almighty One in the dwelling place of the Almighty One. showing himself that he is the Almighty One. I read that in place of Elohim, my brothers and sisters, for Elohim is plural. There's only one Almighty One. And I read this to let you know there are warnings about being led astray. There are warnings about those that will fall away. But many of us don't ask, what does that resemble? What does that look like, O Yashar'al? Are we running out of the United States thinking it is Mystery Babylon, only to step into another pocket of bondage? 2 Thessalonians 2:5-7 say, do you not remember that I told you this while I was still with you? And now you know what restrains for him to be revealed in his time. For the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who now restrains comes out of their midst. I submit to you, O Yashar'al, we are the restrainer. Until Yashar'al is gathered, those selected by the Almighty Father for his esteem, as mentioned in Isaiah 43rd chapter, for his esteem, until we are gathered to the promised land, the anti-Messiah and false prophet will not be revealed in their fullness, but they exist, and they are working on the strength of their wickedness in an attempt to rule the world, to build that next Tower of Babel. It goes on to say in verse 8 and 9, and then the lawless one shall be revealed. This is talking about after the restrainer is removed. The lawless one shall be revealed, whom the master shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and bring to naught with the manifestation of his coming. The coming of the lawless one is according to the workings of Satan, with all power and signs and wonders and falsehood. My brothers and sisters, have we bought into thinking that America is Babylon? Have we went into countries? It wouldn't be hard pressed to find someone that say they left America and they felt they left Babylon only to step into a more wicked and evil land. Wars and rumors of wars. There are scriptures that warn us of latter-day conditions and events. I'm not saying this to scare you, my brothers and sisters, but I will define what the next Tower of Babel resembles. It goes on to say in the 10th and 11th verse, and with all deceit and unrighteousness in those perishing because they did not receive the love of the truth in order for them to be saved. In other words, they couldn't discern what was true. They couldn't discern a brother or sister that had their best interests and shared with them what was right and what was true. It's saying, for this reason, Elohim sends them a working of delusion for them to believe a falsehood. Why? Because they took for granted the love of the Almighty Father. They took for granted the brother, the sister, the leader, the guides, the counselors that were provided them. Reading the 12th verse, 2 Thessalonians 2:12, it says, in order that all should be judged who do not believe the truth, but have delighted in unrighteousness. This belief is something, my brothers and sisters. Joining a group's position of belief, because most people believe, many among Yashar'al believe U.S. is Mystery Babylon. Many are being misled and deceived. Over the years, man has not been satisfied and has continued to rebel against the Almighty Yahuah. Greed and a self-seeking position have fueled wickedness beyond our imagination. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. You may just be surprised. Take a look at James 3:16. James 3:16, O Yashar'al. James 3:16 reads, for where jealousy and self-seeking are, there is confusion in every foul deed. In this thing that people are telling you to do regarding Mystery Babylon, there is much confusion, disagreement, uncertainty, and more. But I say to you, my brothers and sisters, come away from the self-seeking. Come away from those that are jealous. Seek what is right, what is righteous, and what the Almighty Father has to say. With all I have read to this point, let me pivot back to the title of this message, The Next Tower of Babel. Open your ears and hear closely, my brothers and sisters. The largest promoted belief is that the United States is Mystery Babylon. I cannot say that enough. How that is wrong and wicked. It has caused people to exhaust their resources and move to places they should not have. It is my position that too many of us go along with the most widely taken position and agree that the U.S. is Mystery Babylon, without discerning fully the life in the scriptures. Stay with me, Yashar'al. All throughout my life, I have witnessed the United States pushing democracy. I have witnessed the United States wanting other countries to be like them, a democracy. But I have not heard overtly the United States saying they want to be rulers of the world, nor have I heard any other nation saying they want to be rulers of the world. I have witnessed many nations, numerous governmental structures. I cannot say there is one nation saying it wants to conquer the whole world overtly. Sure, subtly they may desire to conquer the world, but overtly they mainly want a bigger piece of it. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. There's a reason why I'm saying that. What has begun is the evidence that our world is becoming nearly uninhabitable. This may be a result of climate change, as some may believe, of which I do, as well as end-time prophecies being fulfilled. The subject of population control has spawned a change in global positioning. So more and more, as the government becomes more aware of the conditions on this planet, there are discussions about population reduction. Just like man wanted to make a name for himself during the first Tower of Babel, the building of the new one has begun. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. You may be surprised. The next Tower of Babel has new characteristics. Greed, rebellion, and pride are still the fuel for building the next Tower of Babel, but it resembles something somewhat different. Although both the first tower incident and the currently developing tower, it appears that men are still trying to make a name for themselves. In both towers, man is trying to make a name for themselves. Time, however, will always prove this is a mistake. My brother, my sister, my family, hear me out. When it comes to greed fueling wickedness, wealth is one of the masks used. For many years, the world has attached the United States dollar on things valuating wealth. This is one of the things that helped influence people thinking that the United States is Mystery Babylon. One of the most widely used resources have been fossil fuel or oil. Did you know that the world oil supply has been widely and mostly evaluated by the US dollar? The dollar represents that has been the case. Stay with me, my brothers and sisters. I will not go into much detail, but there is a new phenomenon rising that challenges the U.S. currency. It is the emergence of BRICS, a product that's a result of a coalition, and they are introducing a new currency on the surface. And I say on the surface, stay with me, my brothers and sisters. But look it up, BRICS. BRICS is an acronym. It's an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Though these nations represent BRICS, there have been many other nations joining from around the world. BRICS. Some believe their purpose is to destabilize the dollar. Some is to offer an alternative. What I see is competition, and I'm not an expert to talk about what it will do and what it will not do. But I am aware that one of the backbones behind BRICS currency and how it functions behind money in plastic, talking about credit or debit card, is the power of data. If you search, my brothers and sisters, you wouldn't be hard pressed to find out phrases where they say data is the new oil. Data becomes the new global resource, if I may. And the crown or label for data is AI. AI wearing the crown. Do you know when computers first came out, it used to be that if you had a problem at a store in customer service and you noticed a problem and you would tell someone, when computers first came out, the operators, the end user would say, well, that's what the computer says. It can't be wrong. That's what the computer says. And then we got used to computers and know that computers operated by software programmers, then you didn't hear that so much. Now, many decades have passed since that experience, but now what we see is the emergence of AI, artificial intelligence. Do you know that artificial intelligence is also software? Much improved software, a result that comes with collecting and compiling and testing all types of information. Research the power of data and you will discover that data is the new oil. But beyond that, my brothers and sisters, AI works the data, and AI is a product of software engineers. It is my position that ultimately the actions of all nations will be for one nation to dominate wealth. This entity or nation will be a one world government. That's the next Tower of Babel, the one world government, my brothers and sisters. Due to the conditions of this planet and man's survival, a battle for global control is rising, with strategies and plans to bring about a degree of order. And we will see, as the scriptures describe end times, so is it occurring, unfolding before our very eyes. Yashar'al, again, data is currently wearing the crown, a crown as AI to a degree. Many people fail to realize that AI is a collection of software, programs created by software engineers. There's an infatuation with AI that is growing by leaps and bounds to blame the computer, once again, to not pinpoint one person, at least as of yet. I believe the characteristics of the next Tower of Babel is the one world government. I further believe this one world government is Mystery Babylon. It will have all but one nation, Yashar'al, drinking of its wine, its influence. And we know that the one world government, the scriptures talk about a one world government. It talks about, well, not talks, it is written in the scriptures about a one world government. I am attempting to come out of the habit of saying the scriptures talk about. Can the text be made alive? Yes, but when it's made alive, that is the spirit, the word of Yahuah that comes in Yahusha's name, that speaks to us. For it is written, the letter kills and the spirit makes alive. So it would be wise for us to start saying, it is written, or it reads as, or what we see in the text. There are so many different translations of scripture, my brothers and sisters, but it's when the living spirit of Yahusha, Yahuwah's word, coming to us, guiding us, making plain, making clear what to expect, what to do, that's when we find and hear and discern matters of grave importance. Look at Revelation 14:8. And it reads as follows. And another messenger follows, saying, Babel is fallen, that great city, because she has made nations, all nations, drink of the wine of the wrath of her horn. Stay with me. For I believe this Babylon that has fallen is talking about this next Tower of Babel collapsing, failing, falling. Yashar'al, look at Revelation 18, 1 and 2. It says, after this I saw another messenger coming down from the heaven, having great authority, and the earth was lightened from his esteem. And he cried with a mighty voice, saying, Babel the Great is fallen, and has become the dwelling place of demons, and haunt for every unclean spirit, and a haunt for every unclean and hated bird. I submit to you, everywhere but the promised land represents the new area of Babel, represents a reflection of the next Tower of Babel. Yashar'al, look at 18:3, Revelation 18:3 and 4. Because of all the nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her whoring, and the sovereigns of the earth have committed whorings with her, and the merchants of the earth have become rich through the power of her riotous living. And I heard another voice from the heavens saying, come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive her plagues. My brothers and sisters, do you really believe the Almighty Father will have us just come out of the United States as Mystery Babylon? Or would everybody that had participated in this one world government that wants to follow the rule of the anti-Messiah and false prophet, those who are alive and follow that, looked at you as one not participating? Why this is the next Tower of Babel? Because all these wicked nations came to be under one rule. The 5th verse, Revelation 18:5 says, because her sins have piled up to reach to heaven, and Elohim has remembered her unrighteousness. My brother, my sister, and man's arrogant and haste to believe the United States as Mystery Babylon has been widely accepted, in haste and arrogance and eagerness. The entity pushing its wine to all nations is the coming one world government. I cannot stress that enough. And why is it so important? Because some people are moving to countries they should not be. Some people are exhausting their resources and energies and attention to countries they should not be. We should be vetting, asking questions, uncovering and unleashing the living directions from the Almighty Father in preparation for coming closer and closer together, in preparation for that final exodus that will take us to the land that was given and promised to us. My brothers and sisters, the entity pushing its wine to all nations is the emerging one world government. Seek to discern, believe, and accept. If you doubt that, consider these words, my brothers and sisters. Revelation 13:15. And there was given to him to give spirit to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause to be killed as many as would not worship the image of the beast. It goes on to say in the 16th and 17th verse, I'm in the 13th chapter of Revelation. It goes on to read, and he causes all, both small and great, and rich and poor, free and slave, to be given a mark upon their right hand and upon their forehead, and that no one should be able to buy or sell except that he has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Now, does this sound like a Babylon? Does this sound like one that's pushing its wine on all nations all across the world? Does this sound like something more wicked than the United States alone? As I gradually come to an end, my brothers and sisters, let's revisit Revelation 14:8. And another message to follow, saying, Babel is fallen, the great city, because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her horn. Doesn't it sound greater than just one country? For the sake of time, let me present the following. Revelations chapter 11, verse 11 and 12. This is the chapter that speaks widely of two witnesses mentioned, written about in Scripture, that informs us of two individuals chosen by Abba Yahuah. But something happens at the end of their ministry. And let me read Revelation 11 and 12. And after 3.5 days, a spirit of life from Elohim entered into them. This is when the two witnesses were killed. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. And they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up into the heaven in a cloud, and their enemies saw them. I believe, my brothers and sisters, this marks the time of the next Tower of Babel falling. And I believe a great earthquake will mark the collapse of the one world government, as we know to expect according to scriptures. Revelation 13:14 says, "And in that hour there came to be a great earthquake, and a tenth of the city fell. And in the earthquake, 7,000 men were killed, and the rest became afraid and gave esteem to the Almighty One of the heavens. The second woe is past, and see, the third woe is coming speedily." Here, I believe, my brothers and sisters, that next Tower of Babel is crumbling in this earthquake. It's crumbling in this return, this physical return of Yahusha HaMashiach, our sovereign, or some may know as our king. The one world government and beast system will prove to use data, especially AI, to influence the world. Yashar'al, my brother, my sister, my family, it is possible that upon the return of Yahusha, with the great earthquake mentioned in Revelation 11:13, that this describes the fate of the next Tower of Babel falling? I believe so. Though man appears to pursue a name for himself and continues working towards establishing a one world government, he will fail just as the first tower failed. The composition of the next Tower of Babel is different, but it too will fall. Rise up, Yashar'al, my brothers and sisters, rise up. There are assignments for each of us in the coming days ahead. Though I have presented this message, let us put our energies towards fulfilling our assignments from the Almighty Yahuah, that will come through his word, Yahusha, as he works in us and through us, one towards another. We will see a nation that come together and be unified and fulfill the final Exodus and witness the fall of the next Tower of Babel. Seek to discern the next Tower of Babel that I am compelled to believe is Mystery Babylon. Trust and believe all promises from the Almighty Father Yahuah will be fulfilled. Be encouraged, my brothers. Proof is over the horizon. Yashar'al, know that the Almighty Father do not want us running from country to country, from bondage to bondage, from one country that has personalities such as the literal Egypt. He doesn't want that. And he does not change. He never did want us. In the promised land, I want to say this, my brothers and sisters. The conditions of the promised land now was a result of what was necessary to scatter us. Pray and seek to discern, and you'll see that the conditions of the promised land are changing. Deserts in the Middle East are greening. The Sahara Desert is greening. The land of milk and honey will prove to begin to emerge in the land that is promised to Yashar'al. And that is the area that will be free of the next Tower of Babel and its function. Pray earnestly, my brothers and sisters. Seek to discern what lies ahead. Seek to discern and know how to uncover and vet and uncover the things that are before us to decide whether they are something from Yahuah versus just going along with the crowd. The crowd can be weights on top of weights on top of weights, but they can steer you wrongly. So don't make your decision because the majority. Don't make your decision and say, well, all can't be wrong. My brothers and sisters, I know I cannot be the only one who can receive the truth in this message. And I would say to you, O Yashar'al, warn your brothers and sisters before they just go fleeing into any country on the continent. Warn your brothers the need to seek to discern our positions and where the Almighty Father will have us to go, have us to be, with whom and when. I believe the final Exodus will be a mass gathering. And I believe the final Exodus will be led by Yahudah. For Yahudah carries the scepter and will lead, and all other tribes of Yashar'al will gradually follow suit in movement towards the promised land. Pray and watch, O Yashar'al. The next Tower of Babel was not to bring fear among you, but to warn you not to be jumping from one country, one geographic location to another to just get away from the United States. Because if you go somewhere and use up your resources, and then you see a final Exodus coming together in mass, and you see the promised land being restored to milk and honey, and you find yourself struggling to be a part of that, don't say you did not receive a warning or information that could contribute to better decisions. On that note, my brother, my sister, my family, my name is Symmanayah. There are plans written in part. There are instructions and there are guides used by the Almighty Father. And there are those who think out of research that they have come to the right conclusion and are sadly mistaken. My prayer is that we grow to discern the voice of Yahuah that comes in Yahusha's name, that we witness and learn how to identify what is expected of the one in the mirror and what is expected of us collectively. Rise up and be encouraged, my brothers and sisters. Answers are coming. Are we ready? I want to ask for your support, my brothers and sisters. I have a Cash App, White Rose Family. For those who have given, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. For those who are contemplating give, think about what that seed will produce. Think about whether this is something that the Almighty Father will have you to do. And I know the Almighty Father hard hearts and softened hearts, but it would be greatly appreciated if you assist in planting a seed and witnessing what will come of the seed you planted by giving to Symmanayah. The resources I receive, the supplies or knowledge that I receive will go towards the bringing together of Yashar'al, contributing towards building a census point, an exit point for Yashar'al and those who will sojourn with Yashar'al, those who are made one by Yahusha Mashiach. So much to do, so much to say. But I will end by saying to you, be encouraged. And shalom, my brother, my sister, my family. Shalom.